Ну что, всем добрый день.
So, good afternoon, everybody. We have been working since the early morning. Sorry for this delay, but I would like to ask to raise the hands of those who attended the previous meeting. Since I represent the Center of Corporate Programs and I'm a director of this, and this panel discussion which we organized, I mean the previous one, it was a sort of preamble to what we need to change in the sphere of education. Many of you took part in this, not all speakers, but part of them. So the key element here is about digitalization, that universities face some problems, business is going digital, we need digital talents. And there is a question, probably the first one, which we would like to discuss. Who are the digital talents, in fact? What competences do they need? And probably the following questions: how to train them, how to motivate them, and do we need really these digital talents? If we manage to conquer digital, then probably I will ask this question to those who, as it is considered or expected, as Skolkovo representatives, since they are on the front line of the technological education. What is their vision in this regard? And they were the first to launch this program on digital officers. And what are the first results of this program? Who are you going to train? Please, Mr. Plaksenkov, Professor, Moscow Management School, Skolkovo. Thank you very much, Anna. These are very serious questions you are asking, so vital, so important. This is not a obligation, but solemn obligation, but also our requirement to provide the vision. And you will pick up what you need most, and probably someone will be interesting for you, something you will find contradictory. I like business as long as I live, and I like science and profession. In my professional life, business and science go hand in hand. That is why this is my favorite work. And by combining research work with the needs of the business, I would like to provide something to you with my brief intervention. Something I will tell you briefly, and I will skip this. And this is how I introduce myself. When we are looking at what we need to develop inside ourselves, and what competences help you to win against the robots. So we have some treasures which we never use. The old friends of our school, I mean Ranhix or RANEPA, the Ishaka. I remember his name quite easy. I am Anatoly Plaksenkov, and so this is the same letters in his name as well. You should understand, are you the right person to deal with that? But I was surprised when you pass this test, you will get the results. And I received the result that I am a teacher. I like this profession. If I'm didn't happen to become a doctor, then I'm happy to be a teacher, because I believe I'm on the right place. If I start dealing with administration, but we had started this session on time, but I will try to use my skills of a teacher. This is the second notion of Csikszentmihalyi is a legend, has become a legend. He's the best person who provided options. Everyone is willing to be happy, and we need to pick up those competencies which need to be developed so to become a talent. We need to select what expert meetings we need to attend. Csikszentmihalyi presented his flow conditions. So for me, it is very important to look for those strengths, challenges, and missions which are drivers, and they are becoming mainstream, and they becoming the most advantageous in terms of their development. And we need to promote those competences which are adequate for this potential. I wouldn't like to be set with my competences, so that is why I will start from one PowerPoint to keynotes. This is the next slide regarding trends. Key trends which today practically are accepted by everybody. How I and my colleagues identify these trends. This is quite popular matrix 2 by 2. This is the area where it would be stupid not to look for the trends. We have generally recognized big 4 or 5, 5th or 6th, McKinsey, HCG, and we have big 4 of consultancy, and we have 2 analytical agency, and we have 3 companies which are dealing with ratings. They are trying to monitor all the wallet launch, and they would like to give these 4 groups, not so many companies. And if it is very expensive to get know about current trends, these companies are very expensive. That could cost $1 million. But if you use what they express or said about the conferences, this is the very important information, not obsolete, and you can easily find it in internet, which is confirmed by the leading researchers. Besides, we have academical literature, researches by Skolkovo, Hicks, and others. So everything should be included here. But looking at all these trends identified by the people who are quite close practically with all markets, industries, and with the huge numbers of leaders, my colleagues and my team of researchers collected all these trends, identify them on this slide. They are quite evident. There is a demographic trend, but not clear. This is not about that China has a huge population. We don't. We need to take into account other accents. This sometimes cross-cultural and other accents. It's easier to deal with the Chinese rather than with the generations we face now. Different language, different perception of the reality. We need to look into the cross-cultural differences, not religions, not nationalities. We happen to learn to be tolerant. I wouldn't like to dwell everything. Mega trend is acceleration. This is super mega trend. We have never had it before. Today, everything happens much faster. And maybe in some kiddish manner, there is Google Trends. Who is using Google Trends as instrument? My practice shows that practically no one look into Google Trends. We are trying to find what to deal with Russia. 2017, just simply open source. Google collected everything what we dreamt about in Russia and produced results. Last May I opened this, and Russian citizens would like to mine. So, and it is confirmed by the information. It's not the science, but this is a trend which should be taken into account. Secondly, they would like to have their own business. I was surprised to see this. No, this is the second trend, and the third trend is to lose weight. These two major points. So, is it possible to select its own business or the way of development? And I open the next page. If we would like to mine, then the rest world would like to buy bitcoins. So everyone wants to do something, but in the first place, I think they would like to get slim. They would like to make slim. This is the cross-section of the world, which is heavily influenced by the United States. Everyone would like to know how to make solar eclipse glasses. And I was visited by Italians, and I just look into the wheels of the Italy, the Alia, the Salmoni, and so on and so forth. The first 7, everything is dedicated to the food, the Elbak, just to get additional recipes. So we are different. We are not using even the cheap tools of information. French would like to vote. I wouldn't like to how vote, for whom to vote, and I would like to know trends. I pick up 3 topics: development, to make money in economy, and finally to have some rest. In red, we see education. We are in trend. We are trendy. Everyone is looking for education. Second is making money, yellow line. So in principle, world is also seeking some leisure, and people got tired heavily in 2017, Ukraine, Russia, and Kazakhstan. Who got tired less? They are not asking Italians. They are not asking for this. They are immersed in the sense of happiness. So this is, I say jokingly, but looking at the 2018. Now demand is growing how to become a model. So people got slim, and now they would like to work as a model. You see, Italians wouldn't like to have rest, but they make money. These are the trends with the GDP trends. If you would like to use the slides, you can easily use them. If I know trends, I can calculate the challenges to respond. What shall I do to be happy? I need to develop right competencies. They are analogous. So the skills of the future, this is the global demand. So first 7, digital literacy, it is needed, but the first concentration of the management of the attention, like meditation. He openly admits this. Mr. Gref meditates every morning. Every day you should perform your digital literacy. If you don't know yourself, who knows what the parts of the brain is bigger, left or right, and who is what eyes is leading. What can you tell about your brain if you don't know what of your eyes is leading? We have 50 persons present here, at least a minimum 10 persons should be left-handed. So we limit ourselves. That is why it's very difficult to understand yourself. Cross-culture and ability to be trained or retrained, and ability to be trained as a competence. Not just I'm born to be trained. I should develop this skill to perceive something easy. If you want to be happy, you should use these 7 competencies, and the life would be easier. This I made copy-paste. We need to develop ambidextrality, both parts of the brain. We do have them. That's a good news. But one is developed, the second is not developed. We do not need a monster incorporation or some other corporate of other colors, ambidextrous. So both hands, you can use both hands. This is the most thing that you should develop. If someone believes as a right-hand person, so please take this hand with the left hand, and you immediately engage several neurons in your brain. That would be a small lesson of emotional or cognitive literacy. Please try to draw your brain using your left hand. Just make yourself to open creativity. This is a very important skill. At the same time, risk management is playing a huge role. Cyber risk present the bigger parts on the other barrier. So it is very important to know better what success is about. This success is just wider than financial success. The most criteria of success is preparedness for the future. The right hand of the slide, preparedness for the future, is more important as to fit into the current budget. This is a very important moment which is underestimated. And what is more important, if you now know what to do, and I like Zhvanetsky, of course we can have many competencies, but they are not in demand, so that not to misuse the time. I stop here, and I will show additional materials in the Q&A session. Thank you, Evgeny. Yes, we just Sometimes misuse this time. Please fit in 10-minute period. But once we are talking about the brains and that we need to develop new neuron links, I also would like to say something. Mr. Greff was mentioned here, his meditation skills. It's very difficult to work in the quite innovative bank who should train leading experts to compete with internationally. It's very difficult. Igor, you on the front line of these things, and you launch a school without teachers, and probably you have plans to transform a corporate university. So what are your approaches in training leaders for the most innovative bank? What do you mean under the digital leaders? Igor Baranov, Deputy Vice-Rector, Sberbank Corporate University. I will tell you about the preparation for digital skills, training digital skills, and to see how and to tell you how we see it from our university perspectives. In fact, a major part of this audience briefly is aware of the history of our university. It was initially created for the workers of our Sberbank. It's about 35,000 people, and it was established to develop professional and software skills. Situation has changed drastically over last years. Now, among our priorities in digital skills for leaders of all levels, not only leaders that we are supposed to train, but also expert branch. In bank, we have such a category, which is presented here on slide, in coaching. But this information you can get easily from our slide, our website.
So, we have new category. It's the people. HR of the bank selects these people, the special people who would qualify for this category, mainly associated with their competences. It's about 5,000 people now in our bank are referred to this category. There is subcategory, data scientists. The first one was IT, some 500 people. Both groups are expanding. These are not managers, they're experts, and they become part of our audience over the past few years. Now we have new groups of programs associated with digital sciences. And it is 3 groups of competence we're training in. The traditional professional, soft skills. Now we have this group in the middle, digital skills. Quite a few programs there offered, implemented for our bank employees and for our partners, corporate partners within our ecosystem. Just a few words about why we decided to add these programs, digital skills, this large scale. And the scale is really big and various level, at the level of managers and at the level of experts. Well, at the level of experts, it's changing the format of operations. Well, there are some business units that generate new ideas, new services, and then transfer that to IT for implementation, and IT do their work. Then there's continuous and constructive dialogue between the two, sometimes lasting for several years, which ends up in a product or not. Now we have moved to a combined team, Agile teams. This is big groups of people working in such teams, more than 10,000 people involved there right now. And the first question a manager has that comes from the business, well, in terms of digital skills, they should understand what members of their team are doing. The people who come from IT, they should understand that not only at the level of end result of the product, but also at the level of processes to structure the relationships within the group in a proper manner. That's objective number 1. In terms of training IT people, there's a problem. Not enough people with these qualifications on the market. What we do there, we have special schools where for free we can train some people on the job, 120 hours in the key areas that we're interested in: mobile developments, Java, web design. The people who will, well, don't assume any obligations, but they decide for themselves where they want to join Sberbank, work for Sberbank, or some other place. But the conversion rate is quite high. At a different level, we do joint programs with universities. One is headed by Anna still on financial technologies. There's a joint program with the Higher School of Economics, with the Moscow Physical and Technical University, and others. And we get professional IT people to the bank, but we still have to keep on training them, because while already graduates coming from university, very difficult to get such people that have the appropriate set of skills. And I'm talking about hard skills. But in addition to that, there's another objective: train these people with IT background and with some history of success in their lives in IT area. Train them soft skills for them to be able to work in combined agile teams. That's a big challenge for us, a big challenge for them and their managers, of how to do that in the right way. And in terms of training personnel, it's School 21, also mentioned by Anna. Yesterday there was a session where our rector, Natalia Zabolotny, presented, talking about that school. This is one of the formats, how we can train personnel, not only for the bank, but also for a wider business community. Now, how we train people? Our concept in the university is the creation of marketplace, 2x2, like you see on the slide. Left upper slide, it's our own programs and courses in-house in the university. Normally, we also have joint programs where we invite experts from Yandex, Caltech, Higher School of Economics, and other agencies. And I'm talking about digital skills here. In addition to that, a lot of demand is covered by courses already existing outside of the university, and in this case we take care of the content. We recommend this or that program, knowing the requirements of our bank, and well, after evaluating the existing courses. And extra program forms of training when we want to train very many people, and we have to train a lot of people in our bank. If you want to get a quick impression about the Internet of Things, then you should rather do interactive courses, online courses, or some similar things. And also, there should be an opportunity for peers to exchange knowledge, what's called Inspire in this slide. This is the setup of our programs, and here's the results of our previous year. Well, you can hardly read, the font is too small, but that's not the purpose. So just to show you that there are a lot of courses, very many, really. The months that we have since past 18 months. There various formats of 24/7, remote, other remote courses, webinars, and other types. We have mixed programs with classroom training, not only on the campus, but also on the job. Well, this is an intro. To complete this intro, well, the KPIs that we have, this is a real slide. End of December, we showed it to the bank management as a result of our operations and digital skills, and these are our KPIs. Can hardly read. I didn't know that the screen would be so small and so that you cannot read it from the screen. This is not into the microphone. The translation cannot hear that. Okay, accepted. Thank you. I understand the question was addressed to both universities. Okay, digitalization. How many courses can we do in electronic format? Well, it was 50%, the target, and non-NPS for satisfaction, Net Promoter Score. Will that course be recommended by colleagues to others? And on this one, we had very many stories because it's people dissatisfied with their own training. And it's understanding whether the course is needed to yourself and the members of your team. Quite often it happens like this. The satisfaction rate is quite high, but NPS is low. It's a case when there's no internal communication explaining people why we need to develop this particular skill. Well, the satisfaction was high, but why? What's the purpose of that? Why is it needed for the business? Well, this gap in communication shown immediately in this KPI. Well, time to market, we have to do it quickly, 3 months on average, and 100% of normal managers. What we're talking about, all managers have to pass training in this or this scope of basic digital skills, the very basic course taken by managers of offices that you can see the streets is 2 hours only. But it is intensive, and it concerns them, their particular job, what they do on their job that form our digital services and what we do in terms of digital technology. A longer course, 11 hours, to create awareness of certain technologies, and that is followed for many managers select from the portfolio, they select some specific courses. This is in a nutshell why, with whom we do it, and what are the objectives before us. Thank you, Igor. Now, it would be logical to continue with the corporate trading, how large companies tackle the challenges of the current times. Yulia Yuzhak, the Corporate Academy of Rosatom. Last year, we lived through the same process. That was a program to train young managerial talent, and that we went through the pain of uncertainty, working with startups, internal entrepreneurship. That was difficult. We were in that seminar together, and there's work skills training, more competence type training. But my question is this: how to find a symbiosis of these processes, and where do you see the future in your area? Thank you, Anna. Well, it's my presentation is a logical continuation indeed of what colleagues talked about. We are following the trends, of course, and Igor mentioned a very important thing. It isn't sufficient to train digital talent into technology. We also need to train them how to work in cross teams, in mixed teams, all sorts of teams. And Anya mentioned that we have 2 powerful directions there, and we're doing that as well. But let me focus on digital talents right now, the subject matter of this discussion. And let me tell you this. We're very careful about selecting the things we have to train our digital talent in. While the Sberbank can do a lot of things, it's very difficult to tackle all these courses. We're very careful in listening to the business. We give them time for them to define what they need in particular. We have a common unified digital strategy for Rosatom. That's an important point in our lives. That has 2 parts to it: the products, digital programs, and what internal products we digitalize. So we are now listening to the business and started developing our programs. So we have this subject. We're watching what's happening outside. And we found that there's like a second wave or second wind of the theme of collaboration, partnership, and collaboration, that our digital talent should be trained or working in partnership. It's not a nuclear explosion, but that's quite an explosive subject. We noticed that, and we decided that there's a reason for that. Again, Sberbank, thank you. At some point in time, they presented me with a book on chess thinking with a lot of details. detailed explanations why do we need it. And it's like when everything's okay, nobody thinks about internal collaboration. When it goes bad, people start thinking, why does it happening like that? We start moving. President of the Bank of England, that's a quote from him. But I have another quote from one of our top managers. Nothing brings people together more than the proximity of a common grave. That's what he said. So what kind of grave is there before us? Well, we see that the common pain that can bring all of us together and they make talent work together is digitalization. But in Rosatom, we have another big challenge, which is globalization. The main portfolio of our orders is from other countries which are a global company. That's another challenge. And we need to teach our people, whether they are digital or global people, whatever people they are, we need to teach them how to interact in a new way. And we understand that there are very many tools that can be used. We can implement holacracy or the etc., but we decided to first focus on what we have inside with the company. Well, we have very many research-minded people. We used the method of the barriers of horizontal interactions, not very popular model, but we loved that model. Morton Hansen, he said, what kind of organization you have, maybe kindergarten or a university or big corporation, private, government, etc. There are 4 types of barriers, the model says, for internal interactions. The first one, we translated, what's not mine is somebody else's. People don't want to go outside the borders of their departments. They don't even ask for help because they have this fear that when they ask for something, they'll have to share later on. They stay within the borders. They don't not asking any support from others. Second barrier is when people don't want to help. Even if something goes outside of their borders, they wouldn't want to help, not because they're bad people, something wrong with them. Maybe simply because they don't have the time for that. They have, well, their time to do their particular job, whether it's mining or Bitcoining or etc. Or sometimes that could be of evil intent. Barrier number three is when you don't know whom to apply to for help. Well, I may be willing to help, but I don't know how to reach people in those corporate silos to go for help. And number 4, from Morton and Hansen, I would be happy to help, but I can't. It's when people don't have the competences to work together. They may be willing to ask for help. They would want to help. They have the time, but they don't have the skills. We did a poll inside Rosatom. What do you think? What is the biggest barrier in our company? Number 1, somebody says. It turned out that in the nuclear power industry, it's okay. The biggest barrier, though, is number 2. That people overloaded, too many tasks to take care of. They don't have time. And that poll gave us a lot of information, KPIs, not synchronized, etc., etc. That resulted in a lot of organizational change, and that was a starting point for our thinking program, how to help people. Well, the second thing that we're using is tradition. In the nuclear industry, and it's not only nuclear power generating plants, it's uranium mines, it's research institutions, and this is very traditional. That goes into the family. 70% of the people employed by us have other family members in that industry. So there's a lot of tradition. The work is discussed everywhere at the households of our employees. The same proportion is the people who want their children to continue in the nuclear industry. And of course, we have to rely on this resource. Like Paula Volkova said, tradition is not rigidity, it is confidence in the future, and we cherish that tradition. There is another thing. We understand that the root of collaboration is trust. I remember Gaidar Forum on 2015. Mr. Kudrin presented that with a keynote speech, and he spoke about trust. I was shocked when I heard about this low level of trust that we have in our society. And this is something we have to live with. The level of trust is very low. People, well, especially digital talent, they don't trust other people. They trust their technologies, and that's another starting point. Well, cultural thing, distance to power, working for somebody, not ourselves. No secret. When people go to their job, whether it's Rosneft or Sberbank, where do you come from? Whom you work for? That's the first question that we ask, and this is another part. So what we decided to do, let me share Rosatom experience. Like Sberbank, we do things on a big scale once we do them, but we did not want to change good things. We didn't want to exert pressure from the top, but, well, our management clearly aware that only in partnership and interaction can we address all the challenges associated with digitalization. Thank you. Our top managers, they keep on working, trying to establish great communications within the company. But we started other supporting mechanisms. We now have the trainings about very soft things, like trainings in trusting people. Well, he doesn't trust me. Well, people were shocked when they heard when they say this. It refers to them rather than another person. We have support teams. These teams are strictly cross-functional, cross-divisional, cross-expert, etc. The world skills Anna talked about, we cherish, like a sacred thing, because this is the movement of experts, of internal endogenesis. These are people talking within their professions, not divisions, and this is also fully supported by us. Then practically every session of a team that starts developing digital products would always be followed by a communication session. We train people how to interact with each other, be tolerant of each other, etc. So as a result, without removing the word digital, getting prepared to train our digital talent and digital skills, we don't forget about the second part, the talent. You will not be able to tap your potential for unless you are capable of working with your peers. That's what we're doing, colleagues, with our digital talents. We focus on collaboration. This is one of HR priorities with us. The third priority is learn to work in the new conditions and applying these partnerships and collaboration. If I have another 30 seconds, let me take those seconds touching about the second category, the talent that come from outside. There's a lot of discussion and been discussed a lot, the Gaidar Forum, what to train them in. But that's good material coming to us, graduates from university. They're special people, they're kinder, they're more inclined for partnership. They, well, grew up in comfortable conditions. But we have this position. And Sergey expressed it like this: you need to be very good at physics and you have to love your motherland. That's all we need from our graduates. No, they should know mathematics well. They will add whatever training they need, additionally collaboration, working in teams, etc., etc. So the main thing that we need from coming digital talent coming from outside, that they know fundamental sciences well. Those are the basic things, the most important things that we require from young talent. Other things we can train them ourselves. Thank you. Thank you, Yulia. Now, the next speaker But before I introduce the next speaker, my past experience working in the Department of Science, Industrial Policy and Entrepreneurship, being Deputy Director of Small Business of Moscow, I was responsible for training entrepreneurs. 3 years ago, that was not a hype teams, and 10,000 people were trained during the year. It seemed to be a shockingly big number. I knew then about the existence of synergy, but the fact that that could be mass training, I learned back then. That was the first story about transformation. Then I watched what Synergy was doing, and currently, we came invited to Suzuki together in Moscow. We did that in September. That was remotely, and you invited that person personally to Moscow. So your vision of education of the future, and we're watching you, remember. Gregory Avetov, rector of the Synergy Business School. I have to apologize to that young man for the small font on my presentation. Well, it's not that small, but considering that you're very demanding on us, I'd like to apologize in advance. When you shouted from that back road, I was frightened. I was born in 1986, but I read in the books what happened in 1933 in this country, so I'm afraid when people shouting. More than 200,000 people passed training in our university. Mainly it's classroom training, of which 100,000 were conferences and another 100,000 were various types of trainings, workshops, MBA courses, etc. By the end of the year, I became aware it's too many, maybe too many, more than we had expected. So the question is, where do these people come from, and why so many people wanted to pay money for this additional training? We're happy, of course, as a university. We were glad about that, and clearly we saw that as a trend, and we got interested. Why so? We did analyze the trend, and many other cases from other countries, considering that we copy some of the elements of our training programs. We copied from Europe, from Anglo-Saxon nations, and we visit those countries very often to learn about new training tools. And we see what's happening in those countries. So we have a hypothesis, partially confirmed by indirect attributes, is that traditional training is dying out. It will stay alive for maybe 5 to 10 years, and the whole system of secondary higher education would be reformed or would die. Well, that's conventional training is dying. There are several symptoms that the body is going to end its life soon. Well, the very system of education is well explained by Robinson, not Tony Robinson, but Ken Robinson. He's one of my favorite speakers. He's talking about the history of evolution of the current educational system on the border of the 18th and 19th centuries. He compares that to a factory, as graduates were needed by factories, but now we live in an epoch of global digitalization. That's the first symptom that traditional educational system is no good. There are some other symptoms. Only 27% of people that graduate from universities stay within their profession. Imagine 4.8 million people studying at universities. We can clearly count, easily count how many people will forget their profession. Well, some pass training 4 years, or some 5, some 7 or 8 years at university, and then they go away from their profession. There are publications from futurologists. Ray Kurzweil is the most popular one with us because what he presented in our university. We trust those people more whom we pay money for their contributions. He says 20 to 30 professions, total list of professions will no longer exist, would be replaced by artificial intelligence. This year, we paid money to a robot speaker for the first time, and that was more expensive than human speakers, and that robot had big rider. Out of 12 people, there was one android. Changed attitude during the presentation. I was not happy when I wanted to make a picture with her. And that was a good presentation from her. Next day, the mayor of the city and his team suggested the format where the mayor would talk to this android robot on stage. And this gradual replacement is clearly a trend for us. And the employees want competences which are not offered by universities. We have more than 1,000 universities in this country. Nobody provides that training. Another trend, the employers no longer interested which particular university a person graduated from. It's not a top question like it was before. Well, our clients are mainly businessmen, medium to small businesses, and they clearly they're not looking on that line which university you graduated from. It's not a priority for them any longer, and we can clearly understand why. If you want an answer to that, I can give you that answer outside the format of this session. And some employers are ready to hire people without a university diploma. At this point in time, many people would intervene and say, how come? How come without university degree?
How come a surgeon without any graduation? I'm not referring to doctors, physics, in nuclear physics. There are other professions which are not related to the fundamental sciences. We are talking about different professions. My colleague just said about traffic. Traffic attitude is different, is going dumper and dumper. So content for the traffic. Traffic, it's we. So traffic, I mean the content of the traffic is getting simpler and simpler. So involved, there is a certain number of billions of people, and traffic is going to be dumper and dumper. There are some irritators. We are living in the world with a huge number of irritators, the bigger number, unprecedented number of irritators. I just watched a movie, Summer, by Sberbank, and sitting on the balcony on the seashore, and just writing down the songs. Traffic behaves in the following manner. This is the data by Levada Center from 14 to 25 years. 66% is internet, 30% TV. No education, no self-education. It's not competitive with other indicators in average. Leader in traffic is pornography, and it's going up. It's going to have bigger share. It's about 30% of internet traffic is pornography. That's a thought. I know that we are not among those 30%, but someone is doing this. So these such interesting things like Mr. Dude with 2 interviews with rock star Shevchuk. It's a big figure. A whole generations have been brought on his songs, and a girl which is dealing with violence. So this is what traffic is selecting. Chess. I was quite active in playing chess. Magnus Carlsen, #1 Czech in chess. He's a major playboy. He's beautiful. He's worshipped by Norway. He's a multi-year chess champion, and the number of subscribers in his Instagram is 147,000. I have the bigger number of subscribers. And the recent speakers, Habib Nurmagomedov, he has 13.3 million subscribers. This is what traffic is interested in, and we understand that. Runa Synergia at the background of so education would have features which you can see now on the slide, or will die in the near 10 years, or will just fade away, and there will be an agency named after somebody which is able of teaching several thousand people the packaging and movement. There is a huge number of irritators, and the university should attract something using the packaging and promotion. For the first time, the war in Yugoslavia was broadcast during the news broadcast, so that to demonstrate them on TV. And super case masterclass in the United States, despite New Delhi masterclass started conquering the share of TV because of the big packaging. They make it like a Hollywood movie, and because of the quality of the production, and we skip this entertainment as a new form of education. Entertainment is a package for attracting the attention of the traffic. Here, one of the clearest elements is TED. Market of forums in Russia. I still asked in Russia, why do we need this forum? And I have to respond why we need forum and what Branson is supposed to tell during the interview. In Nordic Business Forum in Helsinki, attended by the president, by the mayor of Helsinki as listeners. They listening to Branson. No one asked why. They spend their time, spent about 2,000 euros for a ticket. And the biggest web summit in Lisbon is attended by more than 30,000. Tony Robbins is a good example of a package. His content, it can hardly be called primary. And I read practically all this in the Dalai Lama book, More Than Religions. But Dalai Lama could get the audience of a full stadium, but consisting of Kalmyks. I was in Riga. I, not Kalmyk, Boris Grebenshikov, and we were surrounded by a Buddhist. But Dalai Lama says very interesting things, keeping attention. So entrepreneurial content is wonderful, and Tony Robbins is secondary in terms of content. But since he's very tall, very beautiful, the package is very good. So ideal speaker, and thanks to this, he is a new element of a new education, well packaged. Lingual Leo, a very interesting case, a multi-year case. That was one of the first tasks, how to keep the attention of those people who would like to speak English. So they have this crazy donut. They the girls who attended these classes, they are losing the weight. After that, they regain it, but nevertheless, they manage to lose the weight because of this instrument. Archaism, this is standards of archaism. It's not possible to apply within 4 years this a person get education which is not possible to apply in reality, and it's not possible. So these characteristics of a new education is applicability of everything that you have been taught, and MBA programs, the module programs, they provide for a possibility to apply this startup from Google, and acceleration. 5 years is now 4 years, and I would like to make a focus that it should reach 2 years and maybe 1 year. It's not including surgeons and so on and so forth. This very popular hub, TED, up to the 80 minutes from 25. Smart reading, a lot of smart reading, so acceleration and acceleration. So wonderful. Irina reads more than 60,000 people. So now audio books are listened at the speed 3. So the classical education will cease to exist. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gregory. And coming to the next question. Today we have Mikhail Zhukov, Managing Director, Headhunter. I believe this is a sort of digitalized bridge between employer and potential employees. And if we are talking about the movement towards digitalization, probably there are lots of possible solutions which could be possibly change HR society and the process of employment and better matching. Mikhail, what is your vision on that? I will try to give a picture how HR community is looking at these processes. HR developed at higher pace as compared with other branches like IT and others. And we see that most big companies, HR heads are the right hand of the manager. It tells that everyone realizes the importance of the HR section. And last summer, we updated our strategy for the next 5 years. We ask ourselves what would be the future in this regard, and we ask our analytics to do this work. They are talented people, but they are lazy. We just bring together our clients, and they will do this the same. And we have the results of this analysis, which I would like to share with you. They are quite interesting. And the first group of questions was we would like to understand the attitude of HR experts towards new technologies and artificial intelligence in particular. The questions that we ask: the purpose of the intellectual intelligence should coincide with the human purposes, 85%. So the next, AI will never beat human intelligence. And then the next question was shared by the 69%. AI will replace people. No one agreed to that. AI is the threat to humanity. It's about 11%. So we ask another group of questions regarding the influence of AI on the labor market. So new professions will appear because of AI. 82% agreed to that. And this is the topic that we are discussing today from various points of view. AI will never replace people, but it supplements their professional activities. 77% agreed to that, and we as company, as business, practically, we have 100% of the CVs are approved by 2 robots. And when robots are puzzled and they do not understand what is written, they call for human moderator. AI would allow to concentrate on the arts. 67% agree to that. AI is a real threat to the demise of many professions. 52% believe so. It could be replaced. Half of the professions could be replaced by 2050. 30% agrees to that. And then we try to make a rating for what professions. I mean, what professions are a threat? Banking, financial, insurance. The less threat are arts, design, journalism, and medicine, healthcare. Of course, we can debate about this. This is just naked facts. The next group of questions: what can we expect from HR in terms of the intellectual development? People realize very well that HR is a humanitarian profession, and of course everyone understands that technologies would overlap with the subject matter of the HR activities, and probably technologies would become the subject of the HR activities. Accordingly, AI will fully change the role of HR. 33% agrees to that. Then we ask, does your company use AI now in HR 11 and 40? Just around 11 and 49 are already using, or at least trying to understand how to use it. That's good. Colleagues believe that next task would be addressed by HR, reproduction of the human emotions, identification of the face, assessment of by digital path, digital education, motivation and promotion of the colleagues. And the last thing is interviews before people are fired. Sometimes we conduct exit interview and we see that the sincerity of the people is high, because for them it's easier to fill in the interactive form than to talk face to face. Yes, the AI is capable to perform the functions of human recruiters. Yes. So 30 persons responded yes, but last year the number of supporters decreased, 25, but still those in doubt decreased several times. Then we ask a question regarding the artificial intelligence for recruiters. So the productivity 40%, creation of a new role of recruiter, use of other sources of data, analysis of big data for shorter time, analysis of the candidates, analysis of search of candidates, and assuming the routine operations. Next question, what are the risks? Not considerable lack of the subjective assessment while recruiting. So the entry into profession would be more difficult. Robots concludes, but is not possible to explain. And the bigger risk is that decisions would be made without taking into account the human intellect. I don't know whether it's good or bad, but still these are risks which are presented this way. 63% of respondents believe that AI would completely conquer the process of search of candidates within near 3 to 5 years. We agree. Not probably completely, but yes. And two second and third factors, education and so on. Now, we continue this questionnaire. We ask to form and to list the processes existing now and how they will change or adjust it. Recruitment of 2018, our colleagues would transform into scouting, search for the talented people. Second place is documentation, which would cease to exist. Then branding, I mean HR branding, it would lower but still would continue playing a considerable role. And the fourth place, corporate culture would transform into the corporate culture, but at higher rating. And this is the process. Technologies would be on the first place. And the last functions, tracking and monitoring of the employees. So this is the way how our colleagues believe the HR process is going to transform. Then we ask, what would be the professions in HR in a 10-year time? Don't ask me. I don't understand. I'm just time manager. It's not a man with clocks, administrator of microclimate, personal manager, foresight specialist, psychologist, cross-cultural manager, specialist for psychological security, and productive expert. Please ask our designers. So skills required for HRs in 10 years. Analytics in the first place, followed by neuromodeling, programming, applied by ITs, experts, psychoanalysis, marketing, and partnership. So these are the competencies which today's HR experts should be attributed to the future HRs. And probably we ask the short list of the events and indicate the probability of their happening. Electronic labor records, %28% HR would be expert in programming software, 27% the fight for talent that people would reach its apogee, 25% believe that robots would start working as recruiters, and 24% believe that HR expert would perform function of marketology and brand master. So these are the results of our survey. Results are very interesting. At least some points were very interesting for us. This is what I wanted to tell you. Thank you very much, Mikhail. I still would like to say close to the Tom. It means that there won't be any education, and professions that we are taught will cease to exist, and it's not possible to train for 6 years. And still we have 5 minutes. I would like to come back to the digital leaders. Digital leaders, who they are. Evgeny from Skolkovo. Yes, we have a very good mix, two schools, two corporations, and the bridge between them. So, and presented a very good panelist. You can use our knowledge to your advantage. Digital leader is likely a person, not a robot. Secondly, a younger person, probably, not from biological point of view, but from the mentality point of view, from developed skills. And finally, it would be won't be subject to stereotypes as we are. Wisdom comes with age, but sometimes age comes alone. So we need to cut stereotypes and allow to be such a digital leader. They are not always freaks. For us, these are the people who could lead a mixed team consisting of various experts, knowing deeply digitalization, but not. This is a person who sees the spectrum of all technologies which could be applied, not only one. So capacity of the company. We are using not only AI, we use it in combination with other technologies. So a possibility to see this horizon of technologies and to instigate your team that your vision is a vision of success. That means a digital leader for us. A good question. For me, a digital leader is a leader who is capable, who has a digital culture, understanding of digital technologies, ability to apply them in life and at work. Doesn't mean the level of this person. It could be a worker or a top manager. This is it. And we made a small survey, informal survey. This digital leadership is not related with the age, region, anything. Some old people can be leaders, say of 83 leaders. I asked him, how many applications you have in your mobile? He said, 68.
It's probably a trait of character rather than age. Well, something's probably broken down in me. Well, I still imagine, well, a leader is somebody on the front line, and it's a business on the front line. It's companies with the greatest capitalization who are investing maximum amounts into the future, into 10, 20, 30 years to retain monopoly. Some of them are sustaining huge losses. They are still losing money, but investment continues to go on into those companies so that they become monopoly in some specific technologies in 10, 20, or 30 years. For us, these are digital leaders. And if we plan to stay in this country, want to bring kids into this country, we would be interested to have such leaders appearing in this part of the world. We believe that the digital leader is a person who can do something that the robots cannot do. Great. Thank you so much, all participants. I hope the discussion has been interesting. New neuron connections were established. Thank you.